Nabalenge Samalola Yatsam District Legend Issuing. Legend Sero Nangi Legend Dinang, Taring Yadun Yusaning, Daguve, Tsen Yushuzaki, Resal Hatbegi Ning Dilla, Permi Mang Chidil Henzoki, Soshun, Teykhang Dolma Tsering Teykhang, Law Africa, Tuzo Tumitang, Perdun Gabjowa Kajila. Zinju Pumi Mangzu Freedom Dang, Tishin, Pernangi, Netang Zada Yembe, Gor, Deje Dang Ge, Geji Ngune, Perdunto, Gabgur Mutu Yongwe, Buguna Washi, Shamla, Sinsi Yongwashu.
I will pass on the floor to Ms. Dolma, the Deputy Speaker of the Tibetan Parliament in Exile. She will tell us a little bit about herself so that we'll be able to connect with her. And then she will do a presentation for 20 minutes. Meanwhile, after the two speakers must have done their presentation, I will have to probe them one or two questions, then we open it for the floor. Thank you, Ms. Dolma. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Tashidele to all the brothers and sisters of South Africa and viewers all around the world. I bring with me the greetings from Tibetan Parliament in Exile. Respected Adam, co-speaker, our moderator of today, Ada. It's my honor to be part of this program, and I thank organizers for having me here. To talk briefly about myself, I'm Dolma Tsering Teykhang, Deputy Speaker of Tibetan Parliament in Exile. I had been in the teaching field for 26 years in upbringing the youngsters of Tibetan children in school. And after that, from 2001 till today, I'm in Tibetan Parliament. And this 17th Tibetan Parliament, I'm elected as the Tibetan Deputy Speaker of the Parliament. I had been to the United States as a Fulbright scholar to do my special ed. And that sums up my being a person in career. So regarding the commemoration of commemorating the Democracy Day of Tibet, I would say that usually our democratic reforms result out of a grassroots movement from the society, but the Tibetan democracy is unique in itself and it's special in itself because this democracy didn't happen in our country. Democracy happened in exile, that too with the visionary and dynamic leadership of His Holiness. So people never fought for democracy. We never toiled and asked for democracy, but it was being bestowed by His Holiness to the people of Tibet. So therefore we can say that Tibetan democracy is the gift of His Holiness to the Tibetan people to govern ourselves with accountability and transparency. So if you go into the milestones of Tibetan democracy, I would say that the democracy, the steps to democratize Tibetan community happened even before His Holiness left Tibet. He assumed the spiritual and the temporal head of Tibet on 17th November 1950 at the age of 16. And thereafter, he brought a lot of administrative and land reforms to take Tibet to the democratic system of governance. But unfortunately, because of invasion, His Holiness had to flee in 1959, along with 80,000 Tibetans with him. Soon after coming into exile, though there were daunting task of rehabilitating the Tibetan refugees arriving in a new land, His Holiness never missed a minute to initiate and take Tibetan people to democratization. In 1960, soon after coming into exile, he guided the Tibetans to establish a democratic form of governance by electing their own representatives. So 13 members, deputies who were elected, and they took office in 1960, 2nd September. This is the time that the representatives were elected first in the history of Tibet, and they were called the deputies at that time. So in 1975, Kashak declared this day to be celebrated and commemorated as the Tibetan Democracy Day. So it happened that way. So in 1961, in October 10, His Holiness drafted the Constitution of Future Tibet, and it was announced to the public. In 1963, March 10, this draft was promulgated as the Constitution of Tibet. In 1966, during the second Commission of Deputies, reservation of 1 seat for women in all 3 provinces were made. And in 1965, election of settlement officers. Usually the settlement officers were appointed from the civil servant, but His Holiness guided that the Tibetan settlement officers should be elected from the local Tibetans. And not only that, in 1964, His Holiness also encouraged to have local assemblies called Gartu. So these are some of the nuances of democratization of Tibetan community, where the decentralization of power of center was made sure. In 1990, during the 10th Tibetan Parliament in exile, the Kashak and the Tibetan Parliament was resolved. We had a special meeting convened, composition of all stakeholders, Tibetans around the world and from inside Tibet. And Constitution Review Committee was appointed that time. In 1991, the 11th Tibetan Parliament in exile adopted the charter as a guideline for the future course of democratic governance. In 2001, His Holiness, in our charter, we elected for the first time the head of Central Tibetan Administration, that is Kadun Chiba. And during that time, His Holiness told that he is going to take semi-retirement. He even asked the CTA staff that we should work as if he is not there in the scene. The biggest and the most significant democratization in the history of Tibet happened in 2011, when His Holiness declared to devolve all his political powers to the elected members of the Tibetan community. And therefore, that time there was a lot of reluctance and resistance from the Tibetan all over the world. Tibetan Parliament and Tibetan across the world requested His Holiness to continue with the leadership, but he categorically said that he's not going to change his decision. And he moreover told that it is not his signal to the people that he's shrinking away from his responsibilities, or he is disheartened by his leadership. But on the other way around, he said that it is for the good of the people to learn how to govern themselves and not depending on one person. So that is the most historic part of the democratization of Tibetan community as such. Therefore, you see that this democracy is the gift of His Holiness to the Tibetan people, which we believe will be the biggest gift to our brothers and sisters when we reunite those who are in Tibet. At present, the Tibetan Parliament in exile, it is the highest legislative body and the unicameral body in Central Tibetan administration. We have 45 Tibetan parliamentarians in total, and the composition of this 45 parliamentarians are 10 parliamentarians each from the 3 provinces of traditional Tibet, Uzang, Kham, and Amdo. It becomes 30. 2 members each from 4 Buddhist religious sects, that becomes 8. 2 members from the pre-Buddhist religion, it becomes 10. And then from North America and Europe, we have 2 to each representative, and 1 representative from Australia, Asia, excluding Nepal, Bhutan, and India. So altogether, the composition makes 45, and we meet twice in a year. In the month of March, we have the budget session. In the month of September, we have the general session, or we say it is the annual scrutinization of the different departments of Central Tibetan administration. And when the parliament is not in session, we have 11-member standing committees who are divided into 3 broadly sections. One is political section, another one is administrative section, and the next one is finance section. So these 11 members take care of the workings of Tibetan parliament when the session is not there. So in broadly speaking, the Tibetan community, we have a robust democratic system because we have the executive, we have the judiciary, we have the legislature, and we have the 3 autonomous bodies of audit, election commissioner, and public service commissioner, whereby there is full transparency, there is full autonomy for these bodies to carry out their workings without indulgence from the executive and from the parliament. Therefore, in exile, we have a robust a democratic setup. Now, the main working of Tibetan parliament in exile is to enact laws. So far, we have 28 different rules and regulations being enacted for the Tibetan community. And we have 38 local assemblies at the local level, which is a replica of Tibetan parliament in exile at the local level. They make their own rules and regulations for their own local people. And whatever rules and regulations they make, it should be in compliance with the rules and regulations that have been passed by Tibetan parliament in exile. So in short, I can say that our democracy in exile is the gift of His Holiness. And when we commemorate the 2nd September as the Tibetan Democracy Day, it is also a day to remember the gratitude, acknowledge the gratitude of His Holiness for his visionary and dynamic leadership. Even in exile, though Tibet is under Chinese occupation, but in exile, we are able to enjoy full democracy. So that's one part of it. And the second part of it is that though in exile, we are enjoying full freedom, but in Tibet, it is not just the case. Tibet is the biggest incarceration in the world today. Tibetan people are prisoners in their own land, whereas the Chinese people, the Han Chinese tourists, they have the free passport to go anywhere, to take photos on the statues of Lord Buddha or whatever the beliefs and the holy statues are. They have the free pass to go around. Arbitrary detention, torture, custodial death is still prevalent. When we talk about dialogue and diplomacy in the 21st century, we still have people in the world who are deprived of the most basic and the fundamental rights of to practice their religion, to lead a life of their own traditional way. They are deprived of it. Extrajudicial, incommunicado detentions are still prevalent. People vanishes, and The families don't know where they are taken. They are never communicated. They are taken to secret places and they have no fair trial and no due process of law has been followed there. Restriction of movement. Tibet has become China. China has made Tibet into a surveillance nation. The movement and the behavior of Tibetans are being mapped through artificial intelligence, through DNA map samples, and through biometric observation. In Tibet, there are more CCTVs than the windows. So that shows how difficult it is for the Tibetans to even speak within their own families. In the name of elevation from poverty, there are PLA personnel in the homes of Tibet who are given free pass to rape the women in the houses in the name of ethnic mingling, in the name of ethnic friendship. So is this what we are looking and talking about, diplomacy and dialogue, when humanity is suffering in such a way? It's so disgusting sometimes. The repression of speech and information. If China, we say that there's no human right, and China try to project as Tibetans are basking in the sunshine of socialism. I challenge Xi Jinping. If they are basking in the sunshine of socialism, how come 157 Tibetan people have self-immolated? Do you self-immolate and sacrifice your life if you are basking in the sunshine of socialism? This clearly shows that there is a pinch of freedom for the Tibetan people to lead a life according to their culture and their tradition. Therefore, I would say that Tibet is in such a difficult position. When you talk about language and education, Chinese language has been made the means of education in Tibet. Parents and monasteries are banned to teach young children at home during weekend. Online Buddhist teaching and language teachings have become a crime in Tibet. See what's happening. Number like 800,000 children and 900,000 children are being taken away from their parents. They are separated from their parents and are being relocated in the colonial boarding schools. As young as 4- and 5-year children are being taken away. Is this what China is talking about, the basking in the socialism? They are being uprooted from their culture. They are being uprooted from their way of life. They are uprooted from their religion. So this is, we can say that China is up to indoctrinating these young children to become Han Chinese at the end of the at the end of the day. And this is just not tolerable. The world must speak. When we talk about liberty, freedom, and all blah, blah, when it doesn't come to your nose, I mean, there's nobody. We don't say, don't do business with China. Please do business with China. You have to take care of the well-being of your own citizen. But as much as China needs you, you also need China. So it's reciprocal. Make sure to voice your concern about human rights. Voice your concern about the atrocities that are happening in Tibet. Now, religious repression, they vilify His Holiness whenever they fail to do anything. They are ready to pick up all the success in their names, but they are ready to give everything that is their failure to the head of His Holiness. They vilify him, but they are now in the process to make laws and rules and regulations to capture the highest position of Dalai Lama. Why are they doing so? The atheist Chinese who don't believe in religion, who believe that religion is a poison for the development and growth of human society, why do they need the next incarnation of His Holiness? This is a proof for the world to know that China lacks legitimacy to rule over Tibet, Tibetans, politically, morally, and culturally. Therefore, they want to have the position of His Holiness Dalai Lama for their political end. The Tibetan people, their obedience to His Holiness is just unimaginable. Even the youngsters who have not met him, who have not seen free Tibet, they are among the maximums who have self-immolated, calling for the return of His Holiness. We are not asking for complete independence. We are ready to stay with China, provided they give us the space to keep our identity, to keep our unique features of tradition and religion. Therefore, I would say that Xi Jinping and the CCP, they are getting ready to have the next Dalai Lama because they want to use it for political end. So are we going to do it? Are we going to let them do it? Do we have the guts to speak on it? Will the world people stand up for Tibet? Put yourself in the feet of Tibetans. Think about their atrocities. I think it's high time, though in exile, a pocket full of Tibetan community are trying to preserve our tradition and culture and religion, but in Tibet, if we are not on time, we will see the treasure of Tibetan culture and religion, which is a treasure of the world also, will be vanished from Tibet. The monasteries in Tibet have become a mockery of religion. They are just there to show to the world that there is freedom of religion. There is no teaching. Buddhism means learning and improving your inner self. There's no learning, there's no teaching. The monasteries are being vigiled by PLA personnel inside. Administration is done by PLA personnel there. They have no freedom and leniency in learning the true Buddhism. So are we going to let them do it? I think the world has given a lot of relaxation to the Chinese, to the CCP. Because of this, they are emboldened. They feel that they can do anything. So are we going to let them do it? For 60 years, we have cried and went to each and every government and the members of parliament and the civil society that we are the witness to the atrocities and cunningness of Chinese. I think with the advent of COVID union, which had come from Wuhan, whether be it lab leak or whether it is a biological weapon used for humanity, nobody knows, because China never took account of the world's question. Now the world has come in terms with what China can do to meet their ends. I think the biggest threat to the world is a leadership and authoritarian leaders with expansionist mentality.
Ms. Dolma,
yeah?
Could you please round up this first section in 2 minutes, please?
Sure. So I'm going to say that if you are asking me what you can do, I would say that hold your government accountable to uphold the international law and the United Nations Universal Declaration, which China is signatory to. And hold your treat Tibet as a matter of international concern and not of China's internal affair. Engage with CTA and Tibetan Parliament because we are the true representative of aspiration of Tibetan people. Speak up against China's declared intention to appoint the next Dalai Lama, and set up and join the Tibet support groups in your locality and build awareness about the atrocities happening in Tibet. Express your support in form of writing in magazines or in newspapers by using the social media space. I think at the most you can just put up the photo of His Holiness and the flag of Tibet in your Instagram. That would be a support for Tibet. So with this, I mean, there are lots and lots of things, but then I'm going to end up here with a request that the people all around the world who are watching and viewing this program, you will do your share of helping Tibet for the just cause. Thank you, and President.
Thank you so much, Ms. Dolma. You really deserve the position of Deputy Speaker.
Thank you so much.
The content is great. I will come to probe you with one or two questions.
Sure.
Mr.
Sure.
Adam,